Hi friends, Right Careers welcomes you to another brand new video for this week. This is Sudarshan, your career coach. In case you have subscribed to my channel, thank you so much, and in case you haven't, do click on the subscription button and also the bell button for instant notifications of all career and parent related videos every week. Now moving on to this week's topic, this is a very important and burning topic for today. It's a very sensitive topic also. Now if you have a child who is entering teenage, this is exactly the video for you. As a parent, you need to watch and make sure your child also watches this video. Now being a teenager is hard, there is no doubt about it, because this is the time where a body of a child, be it a boy or girl, and also the mind of a child changes. When it comes to the body, the lot of physical changes that you might see. If it's a boy, slowly you will start seeing mustache growing around, beard growing around, and if it's a girl, there are a lot of challenges when it comes to puberty related issues, right? Even the mind undergoes a lot of changes, because that is when a child slowly graduates from a boy or a girl to man. So something like that, a child to boy or child to girl, something like that, right? So that transition phase happens during this period. I'm talking about the age group of 13 to 19 exactly. Now this is the time where a child starts to discover or try to understand who it is. Children starts to understand who they are. This is the time that happens, and they also face several pressure during this time. They face pressure from schools, they face pressure from house, friends, etc., on academics, non-academic related things. So they are for the first time in their lives, they get to know what pressure is. Now all of things can lead to change in behavior, it can lead to mood swings, and there's some kind of animosity that can create because of this. They could also face a lot of emotional ups and downs. Now if you think being a teenage child is it's hard, being a parent to a teenage child is even more harder. Your lovely and lively and bubbly child all of a sudden starts to question you, all of a sudden starts to argue with you, all of a sudden starts to grow above you. Some of the children grow above in terms of the size, also above their parents. So whatever you say to them, all along they've been listening to you, but whatever you say from now on might start to sound indifferent to them. They might not accept what you say, they might argue with you. For them, for now, what their friends say means a lot to them than what parents say. Now teenage is definitely the make or break time for anyone, be it a boy or girl, for anyone, because this is the time where they set the foundation. They have to set the foundation strong for the next 40 or 50 years, and that's exactly what the topic that we have taken this week. The topic that we have taken for this week is how to deal with your teenage children. If you are a parent, how do you deal with lot of challenges that a teenage child or an adolescent child faces? So how, as a parent, you can deal with it? We will see in phases. The first way, or the first tip I should say, to deal with your children is you got to connect with children. It's very important that we connect with our children. Now believe it or not, teenagers, like children, like the small children, they also expect a lot of things from their parents. They expect some kind of love. They expect approval from your parents. Not many parents will know this, because people think they have grown up, they will take decision independently. No, they still seek love, they still seek approval, they still seek acceptance on you, on many things, on almost all the things. So that's the mentality of a teenage child. Now talking definitely to your children, to your teenage children, is important, but listening to them is even more important, because what happens when you listen to your children is there is some kind of bonding that creates between a child and you. Not only that, that is when they start expressing their innermost feeling to you. So the more you listen, the more closer they become, the more they share with you. Now also, you got to understand that you should criticize your child. There is no doubt you got to constructively criticize your child, but you should not over criticize. Now if you start over criticizing, finding faults on everything that your child does, what happens is a child will try to befriend you. Now if a child befriends you, the sharing aspect is lost, and a child gets into a shell, and therefore it's very tricky situation where you criticize, but you constructively criticize, you don't over criticize. Now also a very important point is, if you are stressed out as a parent, if you are stressed out, if you are in some kind of anger, that is not the time to talk to your child, right? So you come back relaxed and then talk to your child. So this is the first tip that I thought I should give. The first tip was connecting with your child in an effective way. Moving on, the next tip, and it's also a very important tip, is angry management. How to deal with teen anger. Now, angry, we all know, we all become angry, right? Now, like the way adults like us become angry, even children become angry, teenagers definitely become angry. Now, angry is a very, very important tool. You cannot avoid angriness. Now, why someone gets angry, you got to know. I mean, that is something which you have to find, the reason behind your child becoming angry. Now, angriness could happen due to rejection, it could happen due to frustration, it could happen due to sadness, it could happen due to embarrassment, it could also happen due to shame, or whatever it is. There are a lot of reasons why your adolescent or teenage child becomes angry. As a parent, you got to understand the reason. Now, what can happen when a child becomes angry, when a teenager gets angry, is they might throw some objects. Some children throw objects, some children kick walls, some children punch walls, or some children abuse and things like that. So too many things happen when a child becomes angry. We will see how to cope up with teenage angerness. As I told you, first you got to try to understand the reason behind anger. Is your teen depressed? We will see depression in the next tip, but is your child in some kind of depression is something which you have to definitely discover. You got to establish rules. Now, not only rules, you got to establish boundaries, I would say. Now, at a time when both you and your child are in a good mood, it's very important that you talk to them and you both are in good mood. At a time when you both are in some kind of good mood, talk to your child. Tell them that this is what we can do. Some kind of framework you develop, some kind of boundary mechanism that you develop when the child becomes angry. You also say what is accepted, what is not accepted while expressing. It's very important. You got to tell them the way of expressing things. Now, if your teen gets angry, or if your teen lashes out, for example, they will have to face some kind of consequence. The consequence could be loss of property, loss of people. Even policing can happen, right? So these things you got to tell them when they are in 13, 14 age, and this is the time they need this. More than ever, they need this rules and boundaries more than ever. So set a strong rules and boundary wall. Also, find a healthy ways to cope up with anger. There are a lot of healthy ways to cope up with anger. By anger, what I mean is stress busters. A lot of stress buster things where you can, lessen on your child's anger. It could be any crazy thing. It could be cycling, mountaineering, it could be walking, it could be, even kickboxing or punching something, pillow fighting or something like that. These things can also reduce the, or rather make you cope up with angerness of your child. So that's the second tip, is to how to cope up with anger. Moving on, the third tip, we take a cue from the second tip. That is to recognize the depression of a child. Now, a child will get depressed or can get depressed because of various factors. Now, as a parent, you got to understand why a child is under depression, for which you need to understand what depression is. Once you understand what depression is, you will then start to connect with your child in terms of understanding why a child gets depressed. Now, some of the common reasons as to why a child usually gets depressed are basically some problems at school. Now, academic problem, non-academic problems. So there are two aspects. So when there is some kind of pressure from the schools, as a parent, you got to address that. You got to make them come out of the depression. The second tip that I can definitely think of could be from the drug and alcohol. Sometimes, drug and alcohol can also, make them get into a depression. Smartphone addiction. It's a very, very important factor in today's scenario. Smartphone addiction is definitely a depression factor where you have to control that. We will see how it is. And then some kind of low esteem. A child could have some low esteem, and that could also be a reason. The fourth tip, moving on, is you got to add balance to their life. It's very important that we add some kind of balance. How do you add balance to their life? You got to create a structure first. Now, on anything, right from their career, right from their personal life to professional life, you got to create some kind of structure. Have at least one course. This is a very important tip. Have at least one full course of meal together with the family, as a family. When you do that, a lot of things are spoken, and then a lot of things cool down. Actually, also reduce the screen time. It's important that we reduce the screen time. By screen time, what we mean is the TV or the video games or the mobile phones. We live in an era where you cannot avoid these things. So you got to reduce the screen time. And also eating. try to cook more. I mean, don't think this is an advice, but home cooked is not only healthy. Home cooked food is not only healthy, but what it can also does is it can sharpen the mind, because we live in an era of aggregators, Swiggy and Zomato. Start cooking at home regularly. Make sure you eat together. That's the tip. To conclude, if you ask me, dealing with teenage children can be taxing, and it can be taxing not only for you and the child, but it can also be taxing for the entire family, especially if you have a second child which is yet to get into the teenage cycle. This is very, very important. You got to take care of yourself as a parent and also the entire family. Now, remember, this phase that your child is undergoing is not going to last forever. It's a very, very temporary phase. We talk about 7 years or 6 years maximum. So this phase is not going to definitely prolong. Now, your teen can overcome the problem that they are undergoing this age with the help of you. So as a parent, it's very important that you work with them during this phase, chalk out a plan, and then make sure they come out with flying colors. Now, that's what I have for this week, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And in case you have any doubts on parenting and raising of a teenage child, do contact me. All the details are beneath this video. Until next Monday with another brand new video. See you all. Take care. Have a safe week. Thank you.